So thank you very much, Sanjay and his team, for giving me chance to give a talk on SUSE in this meeting. And yeah, after a long time, it would be nice if we could have this meeting in person. But anyway, we do not know when it will happen. But it's good that it is started. And I was asked to give a talk on the overview. And what I thought is that, which basically the overview talk is shared between me and Vishrubda. And Vishrubda gave a very nice talk, setting the tone of the meeting, started rolling, and many questions he has raised and many issues he has raised. And I will also go along the same direction. I will also discuss those issues, but with some numbers. Okay. And let's see. Let me start. So introduction, I don't have to really argue why do we need to have the beyond standard model physics. So here we are not talking about all the classes of beyond the standard model physics. We are talking only the supersymmetry based models. And in fact, in supersymmetry, there are also various versions of supersymmetry models. And most the general framework is a minimal supersymmetric model. And my discussion will be based on that model, and wherever requires, I will make some comments about the context of the other models. So looking for BSM signal, looking for the supersymmetric signal directly or indirectly has been going on for a long time. Okay. And we have not seen any signature so far, not even a single clue, direct clue. Okay. Now the question is, really supersymmetry is dead? We will not be able to see signal? Or other school of thought, they are thinking that is not it too early to decide the supersymmetry is dead or not. So I will try to argue, giving few reasons, whatever based on some theoretical and experimental data. And in fact, the recent measurements at the LHC, which is connected directly or indirectly with the supersymmetry, those measurements are very useful to guide us for future adventure for hunting supersymmetry. So I said my talk like this. I will just to begin with, I will just review the SUSE searches at the LHC. More details will be covered by Claudio. And then I will try to argue whatever we see today, whatever the bounds we see today. And then, was it our expectation or is it fine? What is our actual expectation? Are we happy with that, or shall we decide that supersymmetry is no hope of finding at the future LHC? And then I will just give you few information about what is the prospect of findings supersymmetric signal in future colliders. Here I mean the future colliders, only the hadron colliders. I thought of to cover a little bit about the ILC linear collider, but just since it is a 30 minutes talk, I just kept it aside. I'll just talk about mainly the hadron collider. So as you know, supersymmetry particles can be produced at the LHC, which is a proton-proton collision, and all the interaction mostly mediated by the QCD. And the strongly interacting particles are produced by enormous number. And here are some representative values of the cross section. You see that, for example, if you see for a supersymmetry particle of mass 2 TeV, then these are some cross section, and cross sections are very tiny. Okay, whereas the standard model processes, which will be basically the background corresponding to the supersymmetric signal, the cross section really vary from 10 to the power 3 picobarn around that value. And if you think about the QCD, it is more large. Okay, so you can imagine that supersymmetric signal or signature, it will be very, very tiny with respect to the standard model process. So getting the supersymmetric signal out of the standard model debris is not a very easy thing to do it. And in particular, where we do not have any clue where the supersymmetry is lying, it's a huge number of parameter space of any given model. And it is lying in certain corner of the parameter space, certain corner of the phase space, the signatures is lying. So it's a very tedious and challenging job to find the supersymmetric signal at the LHC. And our experimental friends are doing doing a fantastic job to try to look for the supersymmetric signal. Okay, so in supersymmetric signal, important thing is that whenever any supersymmetric particles are produced, either gluinos or the charginos, okay, then they decay finally to standard model particle through some cascade decay processes. For example, here you see this cartoon. When the gluino is produced, then gluino decays to either squark, charginos, or neutralinos. Then those charginos, neutralinos decays to lighter charginos and neutralinos, and they finally decays to electron, photon, muon, tau, B quark, and so on. And these processes go via these here by the gauge bosons or the Higgs bosons. But important thing is that when these particles decay, and your detection sensitivity depends on how these particles are hard enough. Okay, that depends on what is the mass difference between these particles, intermediate particles. Okay, that basically decides the softness or the hardness of the final state particles. So detection sensitivity, and at the end of which one will declare that signal is observed or signal is not observed. To some extent, it is related with the mass differences between the parent particles and the intermediate particles. Okay, so signal rates, you can imagine signal rates depends on the masses, couplings, and also the mass differences. In order to handle all these issues, some underlying assumptions are made, and also some kind of model assumptions. It is R priority violating SUSY or R priority conserving SUSY. There are some huge differences. It is a signal of R priority violating or R priority conserving. Anyway, so as I said, so to get the supersymmetric signal signature, one need to have a huge suppression of standard model to extract the SUSY signal. Sophisticated techniques are used nowadays, including machine learning to extract the SUSY signal. Just a quick recap of these searches. For example, the gluino search. Gluino decays into the, this is one of the channels among other various channels. So gluino decays into the lightest neutralino and the top quark or the lighter quark it may be, and maybe some gauge boson at the intermediate stage. And finally, you will see the various kind of signature in the final state. And all these exhaustively are looked for. And finally, from any kind absence of signal, the gluino and neutralino mass plane has been excluded. So how is it excluded? Generally, this exclusion is, this interpretation of data is carried out within the framework of the SMS model, simplified mass spectra model. In this model, basically the masses of the initial parent particle and final particles are assumed, and intermediate stage, everything is, for example, branching ratios or all these things are assumed to be 100%, something like that. So entire signature is parameterized in terms of two particles, and then from the absence of the signal, so these mass planes of parent particles and the initial, the final state SUSY particle, this mass plane is ruled out. Okay, if you see these plots, here you can see that the gluino mass, for example, the gluino mass here, it is almost ruled out if it is 2.2 TeV, okay? But at the same time, this exclusion is valid when the neutralino mass is something like 1 GeV, okay? Now, if you think that your neutralino mass is something like 1 TeV, then this blue mass also, this limit is relaxed by a good amount. For example, blue is ruled out by up to 1.5 TeV when the neutral mass is 1.2 TeV, something like that. Okay, so for the whatever the limits are quoted in the experimental searches, so those limits are basically the functions of the neutral mass, and when we are in the compressed region, the limits get relaxed a bit. Okay. And here you see that it is a stop searches. Similarly, as before, the stop and neutral mass planes are excluded from due to the absence of the signal. And again, from this exclusion, one can see that stop mass up to 1.3 TeV is ruled out when the neutral mass 1 GeV. But when the stop one and neutral are very close by, basically this region here, which we generally call the compressed region, where the parent particle and the daughter particle masses are very close by, then the limits are not that very much strong, limits are relaxed. Similarly, another important point is that the stop searches, what I said before, all these searches are carried out under certain assumption. For example, this chi10, which is assumed to be the lightest supersymmetric particle, and it is also offered as a dark matter candidate. So that is another reason why we love to call it the stable particle and lightest supersymmetric particle. But there is no compelling reason why it has to be stable. It can decay also. That is called the R-parity violating SUSY model. So if chi10 decays into the other in R-parity violating model, then all these limits sensitivity searches is really becomes different. For example, here you see the R-parity violating model. Neutrino is not the stable particle. It is decaying into some fermions. So there is a Lagrangian which dictates this kind of interaction. Okay, and then here the signal of the stop is very different. Signal of the stop is very different, and the sensitivity is also very different. And you see that in this model, the stop mass is excluded up to 675 GeV. In the R-parity conserving model, stop mass was excluded up to 1.3 TeV. Now, if you use that, if you use the R-parity violating model, then this exclusion of the stop mass gets relaxed by a very good amount. Okay, so all these exclusions, they depend on what kind of assumption are there behind all this interpretation. Similarly, the Churgino-Neutralino searches, you see that Churgino-Neutralino searches, Churgino-Neutralinos are produced, and the final states are some combination of lepton, jets, and missing energy. And intermediate states can be the WZ bosons or the Higgs boson. Again, from the negative searches, there is negative searches. Again, this within the framework of the SMS model. The Churgino, the heavier or the second lightest Churgino neutralino and the lightest neutralino mass plane is excluded. And if this exclusion is that for almost negligible masses of chi10, this exclusion is Churgino or neutralino is 800 or 900 GeV. Again, it is R-parity conserving model. Similarly here, this Churgino neutralino is a weak production. So it depends on what kind of composition Churgino neutralino having. According to that, it also depends on what kind of sensitivity one can observe. And what kind of coupling or composition it will have, that depends on what kind of parameter space one is considering. For example, if you see that Churgino neutralino, all these are very Wino, Bino or Higgsino, Bino, then you see the limits are very different. Okay, and if you really get down into the realistic model where the Churgino and neutralino composition is controlled by certain kind of model parameters, and from the negative searches, absence of signal, if those are interpreted in terms of those model parameters, you see that very tiny region of the model parameters are excluded. For example, this is the plot where it is shown the M2 and mu plane is excluded. The region within the curve, within the curved line are excluded by the absence of any Churgino neutralino signal. Okay, so again, you see that what you observe in the SMS model, in order to get the actual scenario, what is happening in a given model, one need to do some kind of reinterpretation. Similarly, lepton searches also, if you see the lepton searches, leptons will decay into lepton and neutral. Here lepton means the electron and muon. So it depends on left-handed electron or right-handed electron, because it is weak interaction and it goes through some kind of coupling, which is really matters. Either it is left-handed or right-handed. According to the search sensitivity also depends. Okay, so right-handed lepton will have the larger cross section, so they will have a better limit. And here you will see that. So lepton right-handed will have a mass something like that, excluded 700 GeV. If I quickly summarize it, the Chi10 is a LSP which gives is Chi10 is LSP and mass is 1 GeV. Then these are the exclusion one can observe. But if you go to the complex scenario, all their limits are relaxed substantially. Okay, so whatever we used to quote that gluino mass is excluded up to very high values, but that is in my understanding, it is not quoted properly. If you want, that is not the absolute value of any given model. We have not seen the gluino mass up to 2.2 TeV when the mass of the neutralino is something like 1 GeV. Okay, so that is used just to present the data. So all these exclusion, there are some caveat. So for example, masses, all these presentation, interpretation of data is given in terms of the SMS model. Under the SMS model, masses are just assumed. Masses are the input parameter. All the branching ratios in when the particle decays in the cascade decay chain. So branching ratios are assumed to be the 100%. It really matters. The model is our scenario is in the context of R priority conserving or R priority violating model. So no specific model inputs are considered. Limits may be valid for a few particular context. Okay, so what I just remind you that whatever exclusion we saw, those exclusions are not really the absolute one. Need to reinterpret using a specific model before drawing any conclusion. So a lot of work is needed to falsify any given SUSY model. This is very, very important. Okay. So now these are the some glimpses I have given you that where we stand today as far as the particles are concerned and what kind of exclusions are the LHC is giving till today. Now, if you see that what the data tells us. So one of the important measurement is a Higgs. Okay, Higgs, I think Higgs particle and the way Higgs is incorporated in the model. So this is the root of all the problems. The electric symmetry breaking is the root of all the problems. Okay, so Higgs is measured after its discovery in 2012. So far, Higgs is measured, the mass is measured very precisely. Okay, the error is very, very tiny here now of the level of 0.1%. And here you see the coupling measurement. If you see this cartoon here, the x-axis is the particle mass, y-axis is the coupling. And you see that this is the blue line is the standard model prediction. And these are the couplings measured. The new measurement is the mu. About 3 sigma signal is observed. Based on the measurement, the coupling is also measured. If you see that the coupling is measured and which is very, very close to standard model. So whatever the Higgs we see, they follow the property what is predicted by the standard model. But when the Higgs mass corrections are done, all the masses receive some kind of correction. So Higgs also receives some kind of correction, and that correction somehow depends on some kind of scale to avoid some kind of divergences. Okay, so Higgs mass, through the Higgs mass, dependence of the scale in the theory gets in the picture. Okay, so now what kind of scale we can expect that if we think that we are fine with the electric scale and lambda is something like 1 TeV, something like that, then we can have the 125 GeV Higgs mass. But is that enough? Okay, if we really want to extend the standard model up to very high scale, because lambda goes to infinity, then it gives a lot of problem. And that there is the issue where the supersymmetry gets in, and then how to fine tune the parameters in order to get the Higgs mass of 125 GeV. So here it is, you see that BSM models should accommodate the, so whenever any BSM model is proposed, then this BSM model has to accommodate this 125 GeV Higgs and has to respect the data, has to respect the measurements, whatever is given by CMS and Atlas experiment. So all the models should respect that data. And so that is one of the very important guidance or important constants to build up a new model. For example, if we really take the supersymmetry and how supersymmetry works to explain the 135 GeV Higgs, then we see the situation is not very good. Okay, MSSM is very strongly constant, and something it is, the strong sector is very decoupled. If we really try to see the correction to the Higgs mass, okay, and which is a function of the scale of the new physics, the supersymmetry, you will see that if it is a maximal mixing, then one can expect the storm masses up to the TeV scale, which may be within the range of current LHC. But if it is not that kind of mixing we see in the top sector, then the scale at which one can achieve the 125 GeV Higgs is really very large, and there really, which is very large and beyond the reach of the LHC. And in this case, the next to minimal supersymmetry model, which is also came in the discussion of the last talk, next to minimal supersymmetric model, where in addition to 2 Higgs doublet model, one singlet is added. And because of the extra interaction between the doublet and singlet, so there is some kind of relief. Tension is not much. It is more comfortably, one can accommodate the 125 GeV Higgs, and where we can have more particles, and phenomenology is really very rich. But once you have some kind of assumption, but you have to pay a lot of price. Here we have the 5 scalars, there we'll have the 7 scalars, a lot more things to discover to establish the NMSSM. Then I just touch up the naturalness issue, which is
okay, Manoranjan, you
yes.
have, yeah, okay, try to wind up in about 3-4 minutes, 4 minutes, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this naturalness issue already discussed by Vishwarup, and where is the problem? Basically, this naturalness issue, one need to really fine tune these 2 parameters to get the masses at the electric scale. Now, how to fine tune the parameter and what level of fine tuning one can tolerate? What is the level of tolerance one can have it? That is measured by the naturalness. And here, if this in this part, the correction to this Z mass, that is also related with the various masses of the SUSY particles. And if you see the what kind of tolerance one can have it, for example, if one can have the tolerance of the order of 10%, then one can expect this kind of SUSY particle masses. But this kind of SUSY particle masses are already in tension. So maybe if one can have the 100% fine tuning, then stop neutrino masses can be the few TeV. Now the question is, what is the right fine tuning one can trust, 10% or 100%? This is some kind of perception one needs to, one needs to argue, and we should have talked about something about what kind of tolerance one can have it. Okay. Another thing is that there is another way defining this measure of naturalness, that is at the electric naturalness. And if you consider that kind of way of fine tuning the parameters, then it is more bit relaxed. And I think we'll hear more about from the Beer's talk. Another important constant measurements which we saw recently, that is a G-2 measurement. In the G-2 measurement, we see the 4.2 sigma XS. Okay, between the theoretical standard model prediction and the recent Fermi-Lamp BNL measurement. And G-2 contribution from SUSY in G-2 people have been estimating for a long time. Okay, now again people revisited it, and try to see what kind of SUSY parameter space it can accommodate. It can explain the G-2. It is observed that light-lepton scenario is more favored because you see that G-2 constant, G-2 contribution, from the SUSY contribution to G-2 is related with the mu parameter and the gauge unit mass parameter. Okay, so light-lepton scenario is more favored in the MSSM, and various people work for it. And in MSSM scenario, it is very hard to get the right parameter space to explain the G-2 current axis. And you see that some people have tried it, and you see the rate points are allowed by the G-2 plus dark matter plus LHC data. Okay. In addition to that, little variation of the SUSY models, for example, the beyond MSSM, the GARD-inspired SUSY model, they have been able to explain this G-2 axis, but tweaking the parameters at the GARD scale, gauge unit mass parameter or the Higgs unit mass parameter. Okay, but here again, this kind of scenario, this kind of G-2 explanation favors the light-lepton scenario, light particle masses, light gauge unit masses, but strong interacting particles like gluinos and others, they are really very heavy. So they are decoupled. So here scenario is just opposite to what we see it at the LHC. So here you see that whatever the G-2 is expecting the lepton, those leptons are more or less not really favored, but still there are some rooms where still they are allowed. Okay, special cases. And now another scenario is the dark matter and supersymmetry. In the dark matter, as I said before, lightest neutralino is offered as a dark matter candidate. And generally it is called the WIMP, weakly interacting massive particle. And the idea is that WIMP has to be the well-tempered neutralino. And the masses of the order of 100 GeV is allowed. But again, it is very tight. It's not very easy. Supersymmetry is heavily constant because of this dark matter constant relic density and spin independent direct detection cross section. But we are comfortable if we really go to the NMSSM model, where we can have 2 Higgs doublet and 1 singlet, where we'll have the 7 Higgses, and out of the 7 Higgses, few of the Higgses are very light, and we'll have the 5 neutralinos. So here phenomenology is more wider, so one can comfortably accommodate the dark matter candidate, can offer the dark matter candidate, viable dark matter candidate allowed by relic density and the spin independent direct detection cross section. So I just take a little bit, I just do not want to lose the opportunity to advertise our recent work, where we worked on the mild tempered neutralino, where we said basically proposed that neutralino will be mostly Bino-like with a very few percent Higgsino-like. That's why we called it mild tempered neutralino. This kind of neutralino in MSSM can offer the dark matter solution, and those type of scenario can also be expressed through the straw production. Okay, so these are the things I wanted to tell you where the current data from the Higgs data, which is the naturalness argument, which is based on the theoretical viewpoint, and the Z-2 and the dark matter. So all these things together, they are giving us some indication what kind of SUSY parameter space, what kind of masses one can expect. Okay, and these, so whatever the situation we see today from the LHC searches, to me it is not really something we really need to worry now. It is not the time to worry. So then what the future experiment can do? Future experiment means, what I mean is a high luminosity LHC machine. In the high luminosity LHC machine, we expected to have the machine at 14 TeV, but very likely the machine will not be 14 TeV, it will be 13.6 TeV because of some magnet problem with the magnets. And here the cross section increases by very few percent. That will not help as long as the mass reach of the S particles are concerned. And in this case, this is some kind of the ELO report study. If we really go to the high luminosity case where the 3 auto 1 inverse luminosity, we'll be able to reach, we'll be able to have a little bit few hundred GeV extra. Whatever we observe today, we can exclude up to few hundred GeV extra, but but this high luminosity LHC, important thing will be to study the compressed region where luminosity may help. And similarly, in high luminosity region, one can have the Chargino-Neutralino search where we can have also the few hundred GeV extra reach, but not much. Okay. Only thing is that high luminosity region will be very useful to explore the compressed region. Now,
Manoranjan, can you try to conclude, please?
Yeah, it is almost done.
Oh.
So now the next thing people are talking about the future collider, which will be the either electron-electron collider or the hadron collider. Okay, so currently the feasibility studies are going on, and here you see the cross section will be very large, and the discovery reach will be the Gluino scope. One can go to 8 TeV, or Gluino can go up to the 10 TeV. Okay, so here is the outlook. So what we have seen is that masses of these particles are constant with certain assumption. Whatever the limits we observe, those are not the absolute limits. Okay, so those are the limits under certain model and certain specific final state. So in order to understand the status of any given model, one need to have more realistic recasting of data to conclude whether a model is dead or alive. Okay, maybe the strong sector are decoupled. They're looking for the electroinos and the leptons are more interesting, maybe in the high luminosity LHC phase, and also looking for signals of various versions of SUSY. Okay, not only the MSSM, not only the NMSSM, but there are more other SUSYs. More exhaustively, one should have the alternative violating model, still SUSY, split SUSY, SUSY in string landscape that is multiverse. So we should be more open, okay, to look for the variety of signal. And maybe are we not missing any signal the way we are looking for the signal? We need to revisit the way we are looking for the signal. Maybe we need to develop more sophisticated technique and complementary way to look for the supersymmetric signal. So whatever we see, I think it is not the date, not the end, but there are more things one we can do, more data is there, need to be analyzed. So be optimistic and have patience. And finally, what I see is that although he's my favorite actor, but what I see is that it is not really, I believe. Okay, it is not really the unbelievable. It is not difficult. We can see that if it is exists. So I want to look for like this. And finally, I will find it. I hope to find it like this. And once we find it, then we'll celebrate it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Manoranjan. Thanks a lot. Okay, I have one question which came up first in the chat. I'll just read that out. And after that, we have Santosh and Sanjay waiting with their raised hands. So the first question that is on chat is from Alpana Sirohi. And she's asking Manoranjan that there are so many analyses going on and the limits set by these analyses are not absolute. Then how does one figure out a new analysis which could be relevant or useful?
So whatever the analysis going on, I mean the analysis, I mean the experimental analysis, right? So whatever the analysis going on, those analyses are based on the particular model. And new analysis means the new way of looking for supersymmetric signal or different kind of signature of the SUSY particles and different kind of the phase space one need to look for. For example, in the compressed scenario, recently in both experiments that are going on, when the parent particle masses, parent and final state particle masses, mass difference is few GeV. Okay, even at the level of MEV, then the displaced tracks, displaced jets, those kind of studies are going on. So it is, so those are the new things are coming up, and I hope more things will come up for other kind of SUSI signals within the framework of different kind of SUSI models.
Okay, okay, Santosh, can you please ask your question?
Okay, thank you, Atul. Hi, Manoranjan.
Hi.
Thank you for the nice summary. So I had just one specific question, or maybe a comment from your side, that you are discussing all the SUSI searches, but one of the primary ingredients of supersymmetry models is the second Higgs doublet. Now, in the Higgs doublet, there's another Higgs doublet,
Yes.
right? So,
Yes.
so means all these SUSI searches, in that perspective, with the limits that we are obtaining, how would you put the second Higgs doublet fields? How do they kind of stand up? Means, do they have any implications for them in their search?
Second Higgs doublet.
So you have the charged Higgs and the second neutral CP even Higgs, CP odd Higgs. So how do that stand in the context of the SUSI searches that is being carried out?
Yes, yes. So in SUSI searches, after the discovery of the 125 GeV Higgs, in SUSI particle cascade decay chain, it has been a regular practice to include the standard model like Higgs in the decay chain. You have seen it. But really, if you really go for more higher and higher masses, then one should also include, in addition to the 125 GeV Higgs, the other heavier Higgses in the cascade decay chain. Okay. So this way, one should take into account their effect, I believe.
Yeah, but means is the current exclusions, because they probably tell us something about tan beta, the mu choice, and so on.
No,
means does it kind of give any hints of the heavy Higgs having any particular signal which can be looked at?
Heavy Higgs means here generally the heavy Higgs is look for the 125 GeV Higgs and the pseudoscalar A and the charged Higgs. Okay.
Yeah.
Second Higgs are not really looked for, but one can constrain those, no, using the data.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Connected. All are connected.
So are there any kind of interpretations on those searches?
There are heavier Higgs searches. The heavier Higgs is decaying to lighter Higgses. Okay, in MSSM framework as well as the NMSSM framework, and from the exclusion from the absence of the signal, exclusions are proposed. I think it is there.
Okay. Can we just go to Sanjay? We are really running out of time now, and so I think let's just go to Sanjay. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay. I have a quick question. So, but the LHC, most often we look at the SUSI searches in the high MET region. But what happens if the charging or neutralino is of the order of 5 MeV or 2 MeV, and most of our detector resolution is much larger than those few MeV, and we cannot tell actually those 5 MeV or 2 MeV SUSI particles, like specific neutralino charging are there.
So what is the question?
What I'm saying is basically maybe we are missing those 2 MeV and 5 MeV, few order of MeV and neutralino are charging out, because this type of situation arises when in the R parity volatility models where the LSP decays into the fermions and the neutrinos, something like the neutrinos are the responsible for very low MET, or it may happen when you are in the compressed region. Okay, so in this case, as you said, really this whatever the MET region one will have, that is not really good to study it as far as MET resolution is concerned. So that is the reason, look for the visible particles, and there the displaced tracks, displaced jets, those are the analyses are very effective and useful, what I understand.
Okay, I think we should sort of close this session. But I think the next session is supposed to start at 11, and we are just 5 or 6 minutes away from it. So I would like to thank everybody for making the effort to be on this online meeting, and I hope for all the next sessions, etc., one will also have a very interesting meeting. So with that, let me declare this session closed. And thanks again to Vishwaroop and Manoranjan for the very informative and good talks, and a good discussion which was had by all. Thanks a lot. Okay then.